Has Clemson really improved, or are the defenses just weaker? We'll talk about it right here on Locked On Clemson.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked On Clemson, part-time host and producer over on 105.5 FM The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. We're part of that Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if you're an everydayer, big salute out there to you. You know how we do it here. Exclusive Clemson content Monday through Friday, every single week. And if you're new to the show, welcome in. We're glad to have you with us. 75% of viewers have not yet subscribed. So what are you waiting for? Get in there and subscribe and listen to the podcast so you never miss another episode. Really, really appreciate it. Got a jam-packed episode today. Again, more exclusive Clemson content, getting you ready for that game against SMU this weekend. Finally, a home game that the Tigers will be trying to get back in their winning ways at home and continuing to show and prove to the fan base that they've actually fixed their problems, which is the big thing that I'm seeing in the comments and what I'm hearing from the text line over on the radio when I do my show is that, well, Morgan, the teams, you know, the Tar Heels are in shambles and Bill Belichick doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't even seem like he wants to be there. His girlfriend's running things. And Bill O'Brien is just another terrible Bill and another Patriot Bill. And he's not doing any good over there either. They've had a ton of injuries, but their team just looked like they didn't know what they wanted to do either. Both of these teams are not very good in the ACC. So if they're not very good in the ACC, then why should we be really excited about the fact that Clemson beat them and beat them handily, both of them? But the coaches and the players are telling us that the offense is getting better. They're executing better. They're improving each week. And execution to me means what? Well, are the guys lining up in the right position, in the right formations, running the right routes as wide receivers, as offensive linemen? Are they blocking the right person? Is the quarterback making the throws on time? Is he running the plays that are expected? Things seem to be doing better on the offensive side of the ball and on the defensive side of the ball. Are they sticking to their assignments, sticking to their zones, handing off players properly? Are they blitzing and attacking the blockers properly to get to the backfield? Are they tackling better? Are they taking the right angles? There's a lot of things that we believe that Clemson is improving on the last 2 weeks, but it all goes back to, is it actually fixed or not? Because why did it take 5 games and all of a sudden Clemson's now better? What happened in the fall that maybe, well, what happened in the bye week break that maybe should have happened in the fall? And I said this on the radio. It seems like whatever they did in the fall, whatever they did to prepare for those first 4 games before the bye week was an absolute failure because the team absolutely was not prepared for those first 4 games of the season. They came out looking as one of the worst Dabo coach teams we've ever seen at Clemson. So those teams were also more challenging teams than what we've seen against North Carolina and Boston College. Looking beyond what we're seeing in these games, we have to have prove-it moments. And I asked too, is SMU the prove-it team? And a lot of you said, no, definitely not. But a lot of people said, yeah, actually SMU is a decent team, and it's not going to be an easy out. And they should be one of those teams where if you get a win, and if you get a decisive win, then you should hang that up as improving the team and fixing the things that were wrong. Sometimes it's hindsight is 2020. You look back and you beat up those teams and you say, well, those teams are just garbage. Well, I would say be careful with that, because then you give your team no credit for what they've been able to do. I mean, they very well could have lost these games. We had no confidence. Did you pick Clemson to cover the spread against the Tar Heels? Did you pick Clemson to cover the spread against Boston College? I know I didn't against the Tar Heels. I did against Boston College. And you may or may not pick Clemson to cover the spread against SMU. But if they beat the spread and win the game, then they're obviously doing something right, something above what Vegas thinks and above what maybe even you thought. Looking beyond just these two games, I do believe that Clemson needs this SMU game to be a prove-it game to the fan base and really to themselves as well, because it is a home game. They're returning. They've won these two games. They were on the road, but they've kind of struggled at home, and they've got to rebound from that. Antonio Williams and Cade Klubnick have been getting better. Bryant Wesco and Cade Klubnick have been getting better. The weapons are out there. The tight ends are getting more involved. What has changed with this team that is improving them? Well, to me, yes, the defenses have gotten worse. I mean, we have to admit that. So is Clemson actually fixed? I don't think so. I still am holding out some skepticism, because I don't want to give you that orange colored glasses outlook. I'm not being employed by anybody on the football team to tell you and pump you up with all the positivity. The Tar Heels are a bad team. Boston College is not a good team. Better than the Tar Heels, Clemson should beat handedly both of those teams. And talent-wise, they shouldn't be 3-3, as we know. So what has changed? Well, I do believe that you have to look at this coaching staff. And as Dabo Swinney mentioned, it was a failure of the coaching staff. Whatever they did in fall was absolutely wrong. From the scripted plays at the beginning of the game were terrible, to what they were asking the offensive line to do was not successful, to the different players that they were using, or the players that we griped about they were not using. The offense was all over the place and unsuccessful, and one of the worst offenses in the country through 4 games. The defense wasn't much better either. They got progressively worse, continuing to get exposed in this 4-2-5 that I don't like. Not getting pressure into the backfield and leaving their secondary exposed in one-on-one coverage, cover 0, cover 1, whatever it was, leaving them exposed. And the linebackers exposed, missing tackles. It was not good. They progressively got worse themselves. You look at the coaching staff, they're not holding the players accountable. It doesn't seem like they're pulling them off the field. They're keeping the players that aren't executing on the field and continue to make them starters. And then you look at Tom Allen was in the box, and now he's on the field. So what has happened? What has changed to get this team right? What has changed to fix this team? Well, they basically, in my opinion, had to scrap everything they did in the fall. And that, I think, is the biggest disappointment from this team, coming from a coaching failure that Dabo Swinney admitted was the reason. It wasn't the talent. It was the coaching failure. So to me, if I look back and I say, okay, did they just miraculously fix it? No, some of it is still a problem, but they had better teams to win against. But also, what they're doing now maybe could have just won those games that they lost against Georgia Tech and Syracuse if they were doing what they're doing now back then. You can't go backwards, I know, but if you think about what are they doing now, spreading the ball out a ton more, making the blocking concepts easy, getting Tom Allen on the field and giving them immediate feedback and pumping them up when they need it. Those things that they're doing now is helping this team win these games handedly, and could have helped this team win those games before. So to me, I think what they did during the bye week and that break was to scrap what they did in the fall. All of the game planning they did in the fall and the player evaluation was bad. And they reset it, and they said, okay, blank slate, but using what we know, how do we move forward? This team and Dabo Swinney is a well-coached team They didn't look at the first 4 games, but they're starting to kind of remember who they were. And they talk about Batman with the players. The coaches need to remember who they were too and start helping put a better product on the field. Clemson is doing it. The fan base will believe it as they continue to stack wins. In segment 2, we're going to talk about Cade and Bryant Wesco and how they can continue that success right here on Locked on Clemson. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same attention to how we craft every model. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan and stay motivated and reach peak performance. I love how Peloton and the Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter and taking the guesswork out of your workouts. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. Cade Klubnick to Bryant Wesco has been one of the bright spots for Clemson's offense this season. And the chemistry is obviously there, but the chemistry needs to be there for an entire game when you get more down the line in the schedule to more difficult opponents. We've seen a lot of Cade Klubnick and Bryant Wesco and his top wide receivers, all of them really, at the very beginning of these last 2 games. In the first quarter, dominated North Carolina, then took the foot off the gas and slept. First half, dominated Boston College, then Cade rolled his ankle up, and they had to move in with Christopher Vizina, kind of slept after that. The timing looks better, but Clemson has to win the more difficult games going forward. And to do so, that connection between Cade Klubnick and Bryant Wesco has to be there for 4 quarters. And not really just Wesco, but all of the wide receivers as well. There is so many weapons for Cade to utilize on this team. You have to be excited about the opportunities and the possibilities that this Clemson offense has moving forward, as long as the offensive line can protect Cade and keep him in the pocket, keep him confident in the pocket, and he stays there scanning the field. Now, Cade is a half the field type of read guy. He's not going to see everything. There are going to be players that get ignored from time to time. We've seen that, unfortunately, this year more with TJ Moore than other players. But what we are seeing successful is Antonio Williams and specifically Bryant Wesco with some of his big-time catches. He's had a 30-plus yard catch like 4 games in a row. He's had 2 over 100-yard games, multiple touchdowns. The timing with Bryant Wesco and him being able to get open at the right time and Cade being able to see him and throw it at the right time gives this offense a lot more confidence and allows the defense to kind of take a step back and to maybe rethink how they're going to defend Bryant Wesco, which will then hopefully open up everything else. You got to, defenses have to be stressed about him beating them short, beating them across the middle, beating them deep. Bryant Wesco is really a do-it-all star wide receiver for Clemson, and it has been great to see here in the second season at Clemson. Now, he was one of the better freshmen right behind Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams at Alabama, Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State. He was one of the better ones. Also, Wesco and Moore were like 3 and 4 in the top receiving yards for freshmen. Moore's kind of, again, he's in a weird, him and Cade and the togetherness there is in a funk right now. But Wesco and Cade have been working well. The back shoulder throws have been doing well. The rhythm's there, and it comes out quick and fast, and that's what we wanted. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not upset that it's been happening a lot in the first half and the first quarter with Wesco. But what I'm saying is that for when they get more difficult teams later on in the season, they're going to have to string it together for 4 complete quarters. Even in these 2 games that they've won against the Tar Heels and Boston College, you really can't say they've played 4 amazing quarters for either of those teams and either of those matchups. But what do you like? You like the protection. You like what Cade Klubnick's been doing in the pocket. I do like that he's been doing some checks with the routes for the teams and seeing what the defense is giving him. Even though, again, I don't think he completely scans the field by design or by ability. But to me, Cade has been doing the right things these last 2 weeks, and it's obviously benefited Bryant Wesco a ton as well. Are they the most reliable 1-2 duo for Clemson right now? And will they be for the rest of the season? I don't even know if they're the most reliable. They're most consistent so far. But I even say that Antonio Williams is in that mix as well because, against Boston College, he had some great catches and yards after catch on his stat sheet as well. So Cade and Wesco is a for sure target that you love to see, and you want to see that get going fast. And again, continue for 4 quarters. Is he the most reliable target? Yeah, you could say that, but mainly because Antonio Williams has been injured. And now Antonio Williams is back healthy. It could be Antonio Williams as well, but you have to like that as a Clemson fan going forward as the games get more difficult, as we get late into October and into November, that he has more than just one option. I mean, how many other college teams out there really have barely one true great wide receiver? Clemson has multiple of those guys, and even one, TJ Moore, that is kind of ignored right now. And again, I'm not saying ignored on purpose, but just in kind of a funk, right? Defenses may be adjusting after halftime as well to Bryant Wesco and leaning into him, but they still need to continue it going forward in the second half of games. Part of continuing it going forward in the second half of games is really not any fault to Cade Klubnick and Bryant Wesco. So if you were to ask me, where have they been in the second half? Well, against the Tar Heels, Dabo Swinney took his foot off the gas, wanted to put in the backups and see what they could do. So obviously the starters were kind of moved to the side to allow for other players to get opportunities. In the second half of Boston College, or I guess kind of mid-third maybe, that's when Cade Klubnick rolled his ankle. And it kind of twisted to the outside of his foot or outside of his leg. Not good for Cade because ankle injuries can kind of linger with you. But once he was removed from the game, then that changed the outlook going forward because we've seen that Christopher Vecina is just not up to the caliber of talent level and execution level in this offense that Cade Klubnick is. And will he ever be? Well, I'll probably bring that up in another episode because that's a whole nother segment. I like what we're seeing. Wesco getting a lot of targets early in the beginning of the games, at the beginning of the half. I want to see 4 full quarters with Cade and his top wide receivers executing. And I'm not fully sold on it has to be Wesco. Again, it could be any of the other great receivers that Clemson has. I mean, it could be even Christian Bentancur, Olsen Pat Henry. It could be TJ Moore. It could be Antonio Williams. It could be Tyler Brown. I mean, anybody that's out there, I want to see it consistently for 4 quarters. That's the big thing. But if Clemson can get to a point where Cade and Wesco are killing teams and just assaulting defenses for 4 complete quarters, that's when I believe, and they can't stop them even if they know it's coming, that's when I believe that this team is going to go on a tear when it comes to scoring a ton of points. They're almost there. Really. These last 2 games have looked much better. But as I mentioned in segment 1, They've got to prove it against the teams that matter the most. Another thing they got to prove is they got to prove it at home as well. We'll talk about road poise and bringing that road poise home to Death Valley in the third segment here on Locked On Clemson. The holidays are going to be here before you know it, which is exciting, but getting your home ready for guests and celebrations can feel like a lot. Maybe your serveware needs a refresh or your guest room needs new bedding. Wayfair has everything you need to get your home holiday ready, from Christmas trees to wreaths to bedding to cookware, outdoor inflatables. It's your one-stop shop for every room in your house. Wayfair makes it easy to personalize your home for the holidays, with a huge selection for every style and budget. And with free, easy delivery, even on the big stuff, you can get everything you need without the hassle of huge delivery fees. You know, I've been helping my family improve their home, getting ready for a lot of the family members coming during the holidays. You get those guest rooms ready. You can do so with Wayfair. Get organized, get refreshed, and get ready for the holidays for way less. Head over to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. This episode is also brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com and sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Thank you so much again for staying tuned here through the third segment of Locked On Clemson. If you're not an everydayer, make sure you get in there and hit that like and subscribe button so you can always stay in contact with me and be relevant and ready for those brand new episodes that come out Monday through Friday every single week. You'll get all the exclusive Clemson content right here on Locked On Clemson from a true Clemson fan and Clemson grad. Speaking of Clemson, and the location of Clemson and Death Valley, the players say that their performance should travel. Well, the performance did travel. It traveled to Chapel Hill and it traveled to Chestnut Hill. Now, will it actually travel to Death Valley? Which there is still a hill there. So maybe, just maybe, that performance will travel. What we saw against the Tar Heels and Boston College hopefully will continue now, because here's the thing. Clemson, unfortunately, has lost 4 straight Power Conference home games, meaning that their standard at home is not so great as it used to be. And really, Dabo Swinney teams, this is uncharted territory. The start of the season, the 1-3 overall record is uncharted territory, and really not being able to be successful at home has been difficult for Dabo to kind of figure out, and the fans to watch as well. The last time Clemson was in Death Valley, there weren't a lot of fans. Now, some of it could be because of the rain delay and the lightning delay and all that, and I get it. But also a lot of it was because of how poorly the team was executing and holding that standard of best is the standard at Clemson. Fans did not like it. They didn't want to come back and watch it after the lightning delay. And when they were there wasn't a lot to really cheer for. And honestly, you know, as you know, if you were there were some things that they had to boo about as well. What do we want to see from a home game this weekend? Well, the first thing is we want to see a clean game. That shows a great coached team and a well-prepared team if they are keeping the penalties down. You should have the least amount of penalties possible as the home team. I mean, on offense, in false start penalties, and I mean on defense, in holding and pass interference and roughing the passer, or even unsportsmanlike conduct. those type of things and those lack of discipline shows back to cracks in coaching, and Clemson cannot afford to have any of that. As Dabo Swinney mentioned, you've got to play each game as if it's a playoff caliber game because they can't afford to lose any more games. If they're going to go 9-3 overall and have an opportunity in the postseason to get to 10 wins this season, they can't lose any of these games. And it starts with SMU this weekend at home. Another thing is, I want to see travel is that execution at the beginning of games. But as I mentioned in the segment 2, I want to see it travel and grow and build to be a complete 4 quarters of a game. No more scoreless third quarters. Have you noticed? Have you noticed that they haven't scored at all in the third quarter? They come out after halftime and they're kind of on their back foot. They're kind of not knowing what they're doing again. Or they're having injuries or, replacing players, whatever it may be. But they still, even with their backups, should be able to move this ball down the field. And especially at home, they should be able to execute properly, even when the ones aren't fully out there. No more scoreless quarters. I want to see a complete game from first, second, third, fourth quarter, all the way through. And I want to see the star players shine, not just in the first quarter, but all the way through. Finishing in those red zone drives as well. I want to see Clemson bring that back to Death Valley. That should travel back down home as well because Clemson has to continue to show that they can execute in short yardage situations. They have the weapons to do so. We talked about, I haven't talked about Adam Randall, but, we know Adam Randall is a threat in the red zone. Hey, we know now that the fridge formation and Peter Woods is a threat in short yardage and red zone situations. And then you have guys like Christian Bentancur and even Ian Shefflin and Tristan Smith and Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore. These guys, I didn't even name everybody, and they have the weapons. So scoreless quarters, unacceptable. Only playing a strong first half, unacceptable. This team has got to continue to improve, and that's what's really the gap right now that I see is playing a full game. What will be able to get Death Valley rocking early? Well, you don't need trick plays like you had against North Carolina, but it all goes back to starting out like you know what you're doing. Your scripted plays need to be your best plays. They need to be your most practiced plays. They need to be the ones that seem like they've executed flawlessly. So to me, the team needs to start out hot, and that the Clemson faithful are going to be behind this defense. So the defense has to be locked down and shut down. They're going to be stressed out by SMU. Kevin Jennings knows how to throw the football. He has a couple of weapons out there, and they've got some speedsters. One thing that Clemson doesn't have as well is speed, true, pure speed. What's the fastest guy on the team right now? Bryant Wesco? TJ Moore? What's the fastest guy on defense? We don't even really know, do we? Sammy Brown? It's not Nate Wiggins anymore. They're missing that speed on the defense to keep up with guys like Chris Johnson Jr. from SMU. They're going to have to play the right angles and tackle very well and get pressure on Kevin Jennings. Don't let him pick you apart. As we mentioned on the radio last night, even though he can run, he's a runner to be a passer. He is going to be shifty and elusive to move the pocket in order to find someone downfield. He's not really a runner in order to hurt you with his legs. He really actually has less rushing yards than Cade Klubnick. So, he's not that guy. Clemson needs to execute 4 quarters. They need to get in and get pressure on Jennings quickly and often and shut down anything that they can do. And they need to keep their stars in to show what they can do for a full game. That's what Clemson will need to do to prove to the fan base that it's actually fixed. Now, I'm asking you this. If you're a fan right now and those last 2 games weren't good enough because they're not good teams, I'm asking you now on a Wednesday, is SMU worthy of being a, quote, good team on your list? Because I don't want you to come to me on Monday next week and say, well, but SMU was not a good team. Don't let hindsight be your dictator of who is a good team and not. Clemson should be winning these games. They should be covering the spread in these games. And if they do, it's not because the teams are terrible. All right. It can't be only that. All right. I want to see a ton of points. This could be a shootout if the defense doesn't lock down. Death Valley and the Clemson family has to back up their defense and shut down what SMU will try to do. And I believe it will be there to support them. If they continue to play like they're playing, the fan base will be there and the boos will definitely not be there. Hey, thank you so much again for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. I really do appreciate everybody's love and support throughout this college football season. I know it hasn't been the best for the Clemson Tigers, but it's been really fun to enjoy this show with you all. For your second listen, go check out Locked On ACC with Kenton Gibbs and Alex Dono. Break down the most interesting college sports conference in the country, from the rivalries to the championships and every game in between. Find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And as always, Tiger fans, I'll see you tomorrow, and I'll see you at the top of the hill.